Off we go with a question on conversion graphs. So this graph can be used to change between litres and gallons. Handy things. There's the litres and there's the gallons. And I always have a quick look at graphs, look at the scale, because that's where they're going to try and catch you out. And you can see the bottom scale is going up in ones, so we've got 1, 2, 3 and so on. And the side scale is going up in tens, which means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So each of these is worth 1, whereas each of these is worth 0.2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah, each of these is worth 0.2. So you'll be careful there. Squares vertically are 1, those are 0.2. Anyway, use the graph to change 50 litres to gallons. 1 mark. So 50 litres. Be very careful. 50 litres. So we go to the litres, which is here. 50, and it's on one of these lines, and I would use a ruler for this if I could. You can, so please do. So there we go. And then we come down here, smack on that line, and again you would use a ruler because you wouldn't want to get it wrong, and you can see it's 11 gallons. So that's our first bit. 50 litres is 11 gallons. Now it uses the other way. Use the graph to change 6 gallons to litres. So I'm going to do it in blue. So this time we go to gallons and we find 6, and then we're just going to do it the other way around. So this is a very common sort of pattern in maths questions. They ask you things one way, and then they see if you really understand it well enough to do it the other way. And some people don't. Now, to me, that's in between those two there. So now I've got to be careful. This is a bit more tricky to read off. So 20 and 30, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. I'm going to go for 27 and a half. Now, there will be a bit of a range. They will accept a range of values because they know that people are going to read it. But try and be as exact as you can. Now, 1 litre of petrol costs £1.15. Work out the cost of 50 litres. So, 1 litre equals 1.15. So 50, I'm going to times by 50, times that one by 50. And there are several ways to do this, non-calculator. But this came off a calculator paper, so I'm just going to use a calculator. So we get for that 57 and a half. So that's how much it costs. £57.50p. Now, work out an estimate, that's the next question, for the cost of 1 gallon. Now, I don't know the price of gallons, I only know the price of litres. So they obviously want me to use the graph here to turn 1 gallon into litres. So let's go and do that. 1 gallon. So there's a gallon there. We look at the gallons. Number 1, we go up here, and it goes across there, and it's again in between it. So 1, 2, 3, 4.5. So 4.5 litres. So 1 gallon is equal to 4.5 litres. Now, remember what we did before. 1 litre is equal to £1.15. And I want to know what 4.5 litres cost, because 4.5 litres is the gallon. So I times by 4.5. 1 times 4.5 is 4.5. Same thing here, and I'm going to use the calculator again. And that gives me £5.17.5 pence. So I'm going to round that to £5.18 pence. Now, notice I wrote down the number straight off my calculator there. Always do that if you can, because it just shows you've got a nice accurate number. Okay, bearings question. Work out the bearing of B from A. So from is telling you where you're coming from. So we are coming from A, so that's where we're standing, and we want to know the bearing of B. Bearings are angles measured clockwise from north. So we start at north and we turn clockwise, which is this way, until we're pointing in the direction of B. So imagine this is me, and there's my feet, and I turn round, and now my feet are pointing in the direction of B. And I've turned round 180 degrees and 40. And if you add them together, you get 220 degrees. And that is the bearing. Now, we're told it's not accurately drawn, so don't bother measuring. Work out the area of the triangle ABC. So ABC, notice it's just telling you the letters around the triangle. So the area of a triangle is equal to a half base times height. And the base of this triangle is 14 and the height is 6. So it's going to be a half of 14 times 6. And a half of 14 is 7, and 7 times 6 is 42, and that's the area we're after, 42. Next we're asked to calculate the length of AB. So I'm going to go back up to the picture to do that. So the length of AB, so that's this length here, and we can't measure it because it's not accurately drawn, so we need to use Pythagoras because it's a right angle triangle. So 6 squared is 36. I'm putting square around it to remind myself it's the square number. 14 squared is 196. And then I have to decide what to do about this one here. Now, a lot of you have seen this, and this is a way of remembering for those of you who have a bit of trouble with what to do. And you can see that if you want to work out the long side, you add, and for the two smaller sides, you subtract. Now over here, you can see this is definitely the long side, so I'm going to add the numbers. 196, and I'm going to add 36. And that gives me 232, I believe. And the next step requires a calculator. And we are going to do the square root of 232. So that is done using the square root button. And it gives me a length of 15.23154 and some other numbers. And I always write unnecessarily accurate answers here because in a minute we're going to round. So let's just go and have a look. It says round to 2 decimal places. So 2 decimal places. There's a decimal point, 1, 2. So I'm chopping the number off there. Now the 1 means that the 3 doesn't get changed, so it's going to be 15.23. If the 1 had been 5 or more, then the 3 would have turned into a 4. So 15.23. And there we are, job done. If you're not sure about using your calculator, make sure you've spoken to your teacher or me before your exam. Okay, now it's going to get a bit harder now. So we're going to rearrange this subject, this formula here, to make A the subject. At the moment, R is the subject. So the first thing to deal with is the square root sign, and the opposite of square rooting is squaring, the inverse. And so that is our first step. And then we're going to have to get rid of the divide by 3, and we do that by multiplying by 3. So 3 times R squared equals A. And that's our answer. A is 3 times R squared. Another triangle problem here. This time there's an angle involved, which is a hint that it could involve Pythagoras, but it's more likely to involve trigonometry. It's a right angle triangle. Calculate the length of AB. So yes, this is definitely a SOHCAHTOA question, so I'm going to label up my sides. This is the hypotenuse. Here is my angle, there's the eye, and it's looking at the opposite, which means this must be the adjacent. So, SOH, CA, or TOA. Or which one's it going to be? Well, I always think about what I want, and what I want is this side here, so I want A. So that rules out that. There's no A in it. And so I want A, and I know H. So hopefully that makes it pretty obvious that it's Ca, because there's no H in here, so I can't use H as part of that. So Ca stands for, well, we use the little triangle at my school. We're going to translate a triangle in a minute. We want to work out A, so we cover up the A. So imagine I'm covering up the A now, and I write down A equals cos x, because that's what the C stands for, remember, times H. And I put numbers in, cos of 58, and the calculator will want brackets, times by 16. Why 16? Because that's what H is. And then you type that into your calculator. And make sure you're in degrees mode. There's a little D on the screen. If there's not, if there's a little R or a little G, you're going to get the wrong answer, even if it's very similar to the right answer, which happens to be 8.47870. And notice again, I'm writing too much here. The reason for that is because they want the answer to 3 significant figures. So I'm going to do that now. 1, 2, 3. It's going to be chopped off there. So the answer is going to be 8.4. Now it's not going to be 7 because of this 8 here. It's going to be 8.48. And there we go. Let's just have a quick look at it. 8.48, it's shorter than this one, which is the longest side, so that's a good sign. Always check that your triangle makes some sort of sense. Now, the last one, possibly the one the hardest. We've got a sector here, like a piece of pizza, past the sector of pizza. We're told that the radius is 8, yeah, we can see that. It's part of a circle, PS is a chord on the circle, and we've got an angle. And O is the centre. So we've got 2 shapes here. We've got a sector, which is obvious, but we've also got a triangle. And so we're going to deal with the sector first. The sector, the area, is a fraction of a circle. So the area equals, and it's 40 out of 360, yeah, times the area of a circle, which is pi r squared. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Circumference is 2 pi r. Didn't know you really cared, but area is pi r squared. So that is 40 out of 360 times pi times 8 squared. And this is a calculator problem, I believe, so we're going to stick with that for the moment. And then multiplied by pi, so there's a pi button on your calculator, and I am typing that equation in, or that formula in, exactly as you see it. And if you have a look at the calculator video, if you're not sure how to do that, and the calculator says 22.3402. Now the triangle. Now, you're probably aware that the area of a triangle is a half of base times height. But that's a little bit problematic here because you don't know the height and it's quite difficult to work it out, although you can do it with trigonometry. Much easier is to use the other area of a triangle, which is a half BC sine A, which does use trigonometry to work out the height. This is in the front of your exam book, so you don't have to remember it, you just have to know it exists. Now, when you're using this, clearly A, capital A, is the angle. So this is angle A here, and then these two sides are B and C, and it doesn't matter which way around you get them. So I'm going to substitute into that formula. Area equals a half times 8 times 8 times sine of 40. And I'm going to check my calculator is in degrees mode, and I'm just going to type that in exactly as you see it, times the sine of 40. And the calculator says 20.5692. So, the area of the funny little shape is equal to the area of the sector, so 22.3402, take away the area of the triangle, which gives you, so 22.3402 take away 20.5692, and my calculator is saying 1.771, and it's going to be square centimetres. They want 3 significant figures, so I'm just going to round that now. 1, 2, 3. It's going to be chopped off there, so it's going to be 1.77 square centimetres to 3 significant figures. And we get 5 marks for that, which is quite a lot.